Plenty of pomp and circumstance on a Sunday commemorating the past.
But today is all about Darrell Green.
And celebrating the present. So you're not afraid of the Panthers?
No, man. No, man. We got them.
Smack down to the Panthers.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
The Commanders take no pity on the Panthers, although this victory came with a scare. What to make of Sunday's glorious yet perhaps worrisome win?
We've had Marcus here the entire camp. He's been a great leader for us, and he went out and showed it again.
And bring on the Bears on this week's Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus.
The man
Call somebody,
is back,
tell
y'all.
somebody.
We're
He's
back.
Call
He's
your
back.
mama, call your daddy.
We're back, and we're back.
We're back.
Tony McGee,
Come back, y'all.
We're back. Tony
Hey.
McGee.
Come on. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee, Pro Football Plus. Tony McGee.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50-some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
What's up?
Well, let's not get ahead of ourselves. I'm going to tell you what, it feels mighty good to look at this team. Look at the team that we were referring to a few weeks ago as the team that needed a lot of help. Now we're looking at a team that we can't say they're in a class by themselves, but one thing we can say, it don't take long to call roll. These boys are coming on right now. When you talk about calling roll, I went out and get the aficionados around Washington, D.C., so we could talk about these people. You know, I had to bring Donna Hopkins back in because she's the main one dogging us like we out in a pen or something, talking about the defense. And you know when I say that, it always going to happen. Alex, you have to come here and you have to write out of the script of some of the bad things that G said, but he's on his way in. Then, you know, I bring in the big son. I want y'all to look at it because this brother's getting more famous around town than me. They was asking him, who's that with you? Okay, so you know what? I brought the big Zoe in. But now, ladies and gentlemen, let me bring in the individual that sent me home. I was one of the best in the game when he came. They said, help the young man. How did I know? I was in my career. But I tell you what, when you end it with one of these guys, you end it with the best. You talking about C-Rock, Charles, man, V-Man. What's up, man?
Hey, Tony. Hey, Donna. Hey, Alex. There's G Money right there.
Oh, you think you hear what Charles called it? G Money. What's in, man? Did you bring our bankroll with you? Man, you gonna talk? You ain't gonna talk to us now.
I didn't get to see Gary yesterday, Gary. I was at the alumni weekend looking for you. I know you got a suite up in there, but I guess I didn't have a pass to get in.
So. He was up there with Magic Johnson.
You just didn't stop by. Everybody else did.
Really? Yeah. I don't know my way around this Northwest field anymore. When it was FedEx Field, I knew my way around it. I don't know my way around this stadium.
They haven't changed the suites, Charles.
I don't, you know, I'm somehow I didn't make it.
You had a special suite. That's what it was. You had your own suite.
That's what it was.
It was what the rest of us. The rest of us in one big suite.
Yeah. Well, it was a lot of fun to beat somebody 40-7. It's been a while since we've done something like that. You know, I was talking to Doc Walker. And I was explaining to him, Tony, that this defense is getting better, but I was telling him that the defense hadn't been at the caliber that we're used to since 1991. Now, that's a long 1991, Solomon. That's what I said, 91. That is the last time that this defense has shut out a team. Mm-hmm. And that year we did it 3 times during the season, 3 times. So Donna, you can talk about the defense. You can say a lot of things, but I don't know if anybody can represent what we used to do back in the day. And that's almost unbelievable.
Well, you know what's extraordinary about it, Charles? What's extraordinary about it, you made a great point there. 91 was the last time they had a set of defensive linemen that could control the ball game. We've had all along the line, we've had some that can help here, some there, but you guys had 4 or 5 individuals could have started anywhere else. That's why you dominated. Now you probably say, well, why did you bring that up right now? And down there, as I look at it, I'm looking at these young boys right now, and they are really coming on. And what they're doing is they're starting to do not the particular, but what they're supposed to do, and they're doing it well. They're 2-gapping, they're not getting up high, they're getting off on the ball, and they look like they got some kind of strategy. I haven't seen that until this time. And I tell you what, Donna, you out there watching them, when you talk to these young defensive linemen, because everyone was saying last year, why did they get rid of all our number 1 draft choices? But I see why now. Do you not?
Yeah, Tony. The defense, I want to mention 2 names because John Allen was out of the lineup and all gone for the season with the injury, and also Armstrong. But Dante Fowler and also who had the interception, returned it for the touchdown. They got him from Dallas. This is the guy they projected to be really good. And then Johnny Newton right there, plug in the middle in place of Darrell Payne. So Dante Flowers, let's talk about his interception. Darrell Payne was running step by step down the field with him on that, Tony. So it was something we haven't seen a long time. And then the defense gets 2 picks in that game. One, like I said, Dante, and then the other one as far as Emmanuel Forbes. So something about them, they said that they wanted to create more turnovers, which they did that. So those 2 players, to me, being that you had some injuries along the defensive line, and then these guys come in and really make plays, that speaks to this defense as they move along. Charles, no, they can't be back there with you all, one of the best defense overall. They can't even be compared to you all, but now they're starting to be a little better than what we've seen over the stretch of years from this defense. Each week, they seem like they're getting a little bit better.
And you know what, the vernacular that we utilize, and you think about it right now, was back in the day when they in stocking at Solomon, because he got a chance, opportunity to watch me play with guys like Dick Butkus and all these guys. And Solomon, what do you see now in this team? You watch enough football with me. And one thing we had the minute that the defensive line was not doing their job, we were looking at the linebackers and we haven't mentioned them. And I know, hey, fans, I know you probably saying, this is not the format they do. No, we're talking defense first because I think they set the tone on Sunday, and that's very, very important. Now, if you take a look at them, what difference did you see with these guys in this week, this past week?
What I saw, Pop, is a lot more schemes. Some of the times they were just not in the right scheme, where I feel like you have the defensive ends coming off not standing straight up. My guy Fig Newton went on and plugged the middle a little bit, and so did Mathis. And Darrell Payne played an actually pretty good game. But what we were noticing the other day is they're actually putting some pretty good schemes together, where they're putting people in position to make plays, and is actually making it where it's actually making it easier on some of the defensive players, just those schemes alone. And we can go and admit, like Donna said, Dante Fowler has been balling the last 2 weeks. Last week, 2 sacks. This week, the interception and tackles for loss. So I think they're actually learning how to play with each other.
And you know what, if you take a look at that, and Alex, you kind of let me, what you're looking at with this, we have quietly said our linebackers were terrible, and we quietly said our defensive backs weren't organized. Let's take the linebackers first. I have seen in the last 2 weeks a tremendous amount. Is that because they brought in a vet that I don't even have to say his name? He raised all kind of hell out there in Seattle for years. And I tell you, he's come here, he can play, but our whole linebacker group is playing better.
Tony talking about Bobby Wagner. And yeah, we talked last week that when they brought him in, you're bringing in a guy who's a great player for a long time in Seattle, but also brings sort of an intangible and leadership and the staff and folks that are around this team a lot more than me, like Donna. The team likes to talk about how everybody's playing connected. And he's one of those guys that brings, the physicalness. He's beyond his prime. I don't know that anybody would argue that, including him, but he does bring the experience. And again, this team, whether it be linebackers up front, even the DBs, with Forbes getting the pick on Sunday, they seem to be playing connected. Now, that first drive, Andy Dalton, not exactly Joe Namath, okay? They were like having their way up until the pick. And the pick changed the game. Then, of course, the offense goes down and scores immediately. Before you know it, it's 14-0, and this thing was essentially over. But you're right, the defense did set the tone. Not for the first 3 minutes, because they were getting their butts handed to them for about 70 yards. But then all of a sudden, the turnover, the touchdown, offense gets it back. They score. That game was over. Like, it was over pretty quickly. Again, defense, offense, special teams, they just seem so connected. Some of that's got to be coaching. Some of that's got to be front office. Some of that's got to be kind of new ownership. A lot of it's got to be the players themselves. But, yeah, in all facets, Tony, this team is as good as they've been for quite some time. I'm not saying anything about 1991 because they're not there yet.
Hey, G, I know you be looking at the receivers and everything and looking at our defensive back. But it seems as though our defensive backs have really picked up their game. As you watch them, as say you are opposing a guy going against them, what improvement have you seen in them? Are they tackling better? Are they covering better? Are they looking as if? Because if you'll remember, and we can't forget the first 2 or 3 games, you always saw somebody running free. We don't have that right now.
Well, we didn't have that this game. Typically, someone's been running free the whole season, but we haven't had this game. This game, what I liked about the defense is they came to play. They came to play. They did it. You know, they didn't the first 2 weeks. They didn't. Then they did it for 2 weeks, and then they didn't last game. But this week they came back and played well. And this is the first week I really saw the defensive back really truly contribute to their win. Honestly, in my opinion, but it was a good game. I mean, it really was. It's something that they needed to do. They needed to win. All facets of the game came out and played. They won big, quite honestly, and they needed to win big. And it was a good game to watch. It really was. If you're a Commanders fan.
Hopkins, isn't it interesting? Isn't it interesting that Jaden Daniels got injured, and nobody's really talking about that? We've been on the show now for 12 minutes, and we haven't talked about Jaden Daniels. And I think that's a good thing because other players have now finally taken his key and said, okay, let us step up and make plays as well.
And, I like to see that, but I like to see that he's not injured as much. But I also want them to think about RG3 when that happened. But let's jump back. Donna, let's finish this defense before we do go to the offense. Because without Jalen, we wouldn't be where we are right now. But overall, when you're speaking to him and stuff, what do? You feel the confidence in him?
The confidence in the defense?
Yes.
Yeah, definitely, Tony. I think
you can't bring yourself to say that, huh? Come on now.
I really can because I've been giving the defense credit when they should get credit, Tony. And right now, they're starting to step up. But I want to go to the locker room, Tony, to hear what the defensive players had to say. And Dante is one of the ones, he is elated with that. That was his 3rd pick. Well, that made his 4th pick. And he also made a key stop on 4th and 1. So let's go to the locker room and hear what they had to say, Tony. Your favorite side of the ball?
I was just ready today, ready to set the tone for the guys, just go out there and play. DA was down, Big John Allen was down, so I just wanted to hold my guys down today. That was so cool just to be able to, that was my first interception, and just be able to return it for a touchdown. That was like I was in a dream. Yeah, it was cool. We didn't want them to score at all, but be able just to, for them to only get 7 points, hopefully we got them underneath 100 yards of rushing. That's really cool. So it's definitely energy booster, and we definitely ready to go into the next week and just carry the same momentum on.
Just everybody playing together, communicating like that was a big thing. We preached last week, and we communicated better today and kept a roof on the defense. Didn't let them get a lot of explosives. So yeah.
We put in the work, man. So it ain't no by mistake that we come out here and do what we do. But at the end of the day, there's still room, both sides of the ball and special teams for us to improve on. So we're never comfortable of this win. So we just got to keep going and get ready for Chicago. That's how football should be played, man. Just guys stepping up and making plays happen. And Tay definitely stepped up today, man. He's always the guy at practice running around. So what you see on game day is like that's him. So shout out to Tay and the whole team.
Hey, Frankie, this whole defense stepped up. You all almost kept them from scoring today. Talk about the play of the defense overall.
Man, I think we played a solid half, and also when they scored, and we were trying to have them 0, but just some little things on guys not being in the gap and whatnot. But like I said, we still got room to improve on, and those are little things that's playoff teams and whatnot that's going to separate being great and going on that.
Well, the Commanders in this game, they pretty much dominated on both sides of the ball, Tony. But what you're seeing from the defense right now, the pressure up front, the turnovers, the tackling has been better. All of those things that you want to see improve moving forward is starting to happen. And they've got a big task coming up with Chicago coming to town. But, Tony, also offense. We got to talk about what's going on there, because when you talk about Jayden Daniels, and in the press conference today, it's not as bad. Coach Quinn said it's a week-to-week thing. He could possibly play this coming week, but it just depends on how everything is going in practice. So it's not one that he's going to be out for a long time. And like I said, depending on, how he practiced this week as far as the ribs and the coaches are going to assess everything, you could see him out there, because we know this is a big game against the number 1 and number 2 quarterback. But like they said, they want to protect Jayden, because Jayden will want to get out there if he had anything to say, but they want to really actually monitor him to make sure everything. But Mary Oda came in, Tony, and did an excellent job.
Yeah, he did, and that gives them hope that they know that they can survive maybe a game or two with him in there. Same type of young quarterback with the same kind of skills set that we have now when he was younger. At the same time, he's just a stopgap, and we realize that. But at the same time, be cognizant of the fact that we don't want to lose Jayden for the whole year, because it's not a bad injury. See, these are the injuries that give you trouble, because they're not devastating, but they are still bad, and they're the kind that can linger. When you got a real pull or you got something like that, that's the middle of your body. That's where you're doing all of your balance and everything. So therefore, that's where it causes a problem. So what we need to do is make sure the doctors do their job right now. Let's don't get ahead of ourselves, but we are in a race, and we're getting paid to win. You know what I meant by that? So when we come back, we'll talk about we dogged the offense. We walked down the yard. We put them in the dog pond. We did everything. I tell you what, them boys is biting people now. I ain't joking. We'll be back in a moment.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50 some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
Right now.
Dante Fowler came out and gave us a spark right out the gate. Had some agility and everything, and he got the pick, and then he scored. So that really got us jump started, and we knew we wanted to have a fast start coming out.
Right? Yes, indeed. I was not expecting that, but thank you, Six.
I think my favorite part of the game was us to go down and score in a 2-minute drive. When you don't have your starting quarterback, but you still execute at a high level, I think that's a standard that we're setting for our offense. No matter who's in there, the expectation and the production doesn't drop. So both Jeff and Marcus, every time we're in walkthroughs, every time we're taking reps, they're back there taking mental reps. They're going through the checks, they're going through the signals, they're going through the routine as if they're playing. So there's no surprise when they come in here and they're able to run the same stuff. I think sometimes when the quarterback comes in, the coaches feel like they got to adjust the game plan. But I felt like we were running the ball good, so that's why that was our game plan, to be physical up front. But our pass game was still the same with him up.
Not a good feeling, but we was ready for to adjust. We adjusted well. Marcus came right in and did everything he was supposed to do. So it was like fire wasn't even there. So. But we'd love to have him back out on the field. Never want to see him go off the field. So, I'm just glad everybody was prepared to adjust to it.
I've been kind of hoping it for a little bit, just putting in the work, waiting for my opportunity to come. So when it did, I just took advantage of it. It's pretty cool to have your first NFL catch be a touchdown.
There is a saying that the best prepared is where the success always goes. And one thing that we did see on Sunday is before we've seen things that turn into chaos whenever this quarterback get hurt or this person or that person. You had your number one individual. Number one individual is the reason that you where you are now get hurt. This team didn't blink, Donna. And you see that even in your interview. And one thing I'm starting to see in the interview, I'm seeing off the field, on the field, these guys are starting to gain some confidence.
Yeah, Tony, you're exactly right. And Terry McLaurin talked a little bit about when Mariota came in, they struggled just a little bit because that's just, normal as far as just getting the count right with everybody. But once he got going, Tony, 5 scoring drives and 421 points, a 63-yard plays. Brian Robinson ends up with 71 yards, and they end up with 200 and some yards on the ground. So you're talking about a balanced offense overall, but that comes back to the practice situation, which this coaching staff is really preparing these guys that when one guy goes down, nobody misses a beat. Now, Carolina, they took it to them in every way possibly offensively, Tony. And so, as I said before, Jayden may be back out there this week, but not for sure if that's going to happen. But that you've got sure hands with Mariota back behind the center and everything. Offensive line did good. And also Brandon Coleman went down with a concussion, and he's on a concussion protocol right now. So not for sure if he's going to be back in next week also. So gave you a little scoop there, Tony.
Man, don't come up with no sure hands. You don't.
I am just giving you the facts,
He's
Tony.
been in the league for 7 or 8 years, and we hope he has sure hands. With that being said, Charles.
Did he have sure hands?
He did well. Let's be there. We get ahead of ourselves on that. Charles, but let me ask you this, and you know yourself. Whenever we're studying a team, each of us defensive line pick our man, pick out his tendencies, pick out everything. Now, one thing I've been noticing with this offensive line, and our defensive line does the same thing, up until on Sunday, their blocks were not low, straight off. They all come up high and doing some movement. On Sunday, you saw these guys coming off and driving people. Did you see that difference in the way that offensive line was blocked compared to the way they've been blocking so far this year?
And we gotta, you gotta give the offensive line credit, but you also gotta respect and take into account who they were playing. They were playing the Carolina Panthers. Okay, so
they're bad.
Aren't very good. So, you're only as good as the game you played. So, but what I want to see and what I was excited about seeing is sustaining blocks, coming off the ball, as you said, low, but really holding those blocks longer without having to grab a hold of somebody. And I saw that. I saw that a lot. I saw guys firing out and actually holding their blocks longer. I saw receivers making blocks. and sustaining blocks. So when you start seeing that, you start believing that these guys are believing in their team and the next guy up. I just was really excited, and I haven't been this excited in 30 years, guys.
Wait a minute. You gonna be, hey, Charles, you're gonna be telling everybody's age up here. I was excited 10 years ago. Okay,
I wasn't. I wasn't.
Right. I understand what you said. But what did you see, big fella? You watch all the games close.
I'm actually agreeing with, we call him Mr. Man. Everybody was getting excited.
He's old. You got
no. I called him Mr. Man when he was in his 20s, just the way he used to come off that 3-point. But I'm agreeing with Charles because, and that's one of the things is I'm actually seeing everybody excited again. Old players that played in the past, the dynasties that we've had. People we're showing. I think the dark cloud is from over us, where we're seeing enthusiasm that we used to have at RFK when we were the champs. Like Charles said, I was there from 98, from 1982 to the next one to the last one, which was 1991. Those were some good days. So I'm really just starting to see that again, Pops, the energy that we need to win.
Yeah, Donna, you know, you've been in the locker room, and when you hear from these guys, do you see, just as we were speaking on the defense, that newfound confidence?
Oh, Tony, newfound confidence. You got a whole bunch of confidence all the way around. But Coach Quinn just talked, because I asked him in his presser on Monday, I said, hey, Coach, when you look at this team overall, which areas of this team is really starting to develop? And he was saying that all of it, it's the players that off the field and all of the relationships they're being built. And every time I hear in the locker room during the week, it's the same thing. But Tony, I want to go to Gary right quick, because Ben Sinnott, the tight end, the rookie tight end, had his first touchdown this past week against Carolina, and the receivers, Charles mentioned that as far as the blocking and everything seemed to be getting better all the way across the line. But Gary, when you look at just the receivers, the blocking down, getting open, because Terry said, you know, being on the same page now, and it seems like everybody is gelling. What are you seeing from that whole group, tight ends and the receivers, even more so in each game that goes by?
Well, the receiving core and the offense, honestly, they've pretty much played good the whole year. They just have. When they didn't score 30-plus points, honestly, is because, you know, the defense was giving up 90-yard drives and everything, something that Tony McGee and Charles Mann would have never done. But at the end of the day, I mean, yesterday was like, if they could play that way yesterday with all components working well, they'll win a lot of football games. I mean, people are excited to go to the games now. Like, for the first time in a long time, we had a burgundy and gold stadium as opposed to all the other colors of the teams that played with us. So that's huge for everybody. You tend to play better when you got a full house. I know we did. I mean, we had a true 12th man. 12th man, we came out and played well, especially at home. It was hard to beat us at home. So now I want to see that with the Commanders. And, you know, if they keep playing the way that they play, with all three facets playing well, I mean, it'll be 80,000 there every week.
And they'll be winning some games too, and that's what was fun. And Alex, as you take a look at it, one thing we finding out, G Nim is right. G, and I'm gonna just say this in front of G, the offense did not start rolling until they got the receivers more involved. But to me, the running backs are the backbone to this running game. I'm going to tell you, they got 2-3 different kind of running backs. All of them bring different skills, and all of them bring a lot of trouble with them. Alex, do you not see that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, no matter how great Jaden Daniels may be, every great quarterback would love to have a complementary or powerful running game. All the teams, all three that won back in the day had it. Rigo, you know, Biner, you name it, they had it. They run the ball, Tony. The quarterback, who I know is a question mark heading into the Chicago game, has been fantastic, has been as advertised, and then some. And I mentioned about playing connected. But running the football, it still wins. It still matters. I was listening to Sports Talk Radio like national today, riding around, and they were talking about how the Giants-Eagles game on Sunday, I think the Eagles had like 370 yards of offense, and like 240 of it was running the ball. Like, that still works. I know the other stuff is cute. The Kansas City Chiefs, they keep winning games. They're not throwing for 350. So if the Commanders can keep doing what they're doing, regardless of who the quarterback is, they got a chance to win. I'm kind of with Charles. Well, actually, I'm with Charles. Okay, I've loved Charles since I was a kid, okay? They played the Carolina Panthers, and the wins this year for Washington goes something like this. The Giants, who didn't have a kicker, okay, Carolina, Cincinnati wasn't that good a month ago. But, like, they really haven't beaten anybody of substance yet. That said, they've taken care of business by running the ball and by having a great quarterback. We'll see if he's back. It would be such a shame if he's not, because as Donna said, number 1 pick, Caleb Williams, number 2 pick, Jaden Daniels. They flex that game, the networks, for that clearly. We might not have that. But if Washington runs the ball, obviously that takes a boatload off of Mariota and what he would have to do.
And it was good to have Brian Robinson Jr. back in the lineup with them 71 yards, and he's got 6 touchdowns on the year. So it was key for him. Like you said, Tony, 3 backs that do multiple things. You're going to need that down the stretch.
Mm-hmm. When you start speaking schematically like that, one team cannot get ready for one thing from one back. And all of them, they do it well. So that's what is very, very important. So, as we take a break right here, this time we did do a little flip, but it's good when you can do a flip. Because a few weeks ago, we were talking about getting the first pick in the draft. Now we're talking about getting the first one in the playoff. We'll be back.
People don't know the real story of what happened.
It was an unbelievable series of events and an unbelievable time.
Their championship was taken away from them in 1969. We are living in their championship now.
50-some years later, good is coming from it. They are impacting state after state after state after state.
And we're going to show the world how to love.
Welcome back. This show is flying by. I didn't, you hear me joking with Charles and joking with different people and stuff, but you know what? I have to mention each and every week how blessed I am. And I'm even more blessed sitting up here with my son in my 40th year doing something that I didn't know anything about 40 years ago. If that ain't God working, I tell you what, somebody got to tell me different. Speaking of God working, we never thought special teams would be able to even get out on the field unless it was storming, but they brought the sun out a little bit for us. So God working there as well, and they get a little better down. So we'll call them special this week. But when you talk about special, it was a special occasion out there at that stadium. And Donna, one of your good friends were honored.
Yeah, Tony, not only my good friends, but yours and Charles's former teammates. Also, I want to congratulate you and Charles, the alumni, my favorite time of the year to see all the guys came back when they were winning, and Gary Clark on there too, because we take it for granted because we're on here together. But it was alumni weekend, and that was a special moment in itself. But the other special moment is that all of you all got to come back to see something that never really happens that much. It's someone's jersey retired, number 28, Darrell Green. Not only was his jersey retired, but he also gets a key to the city, which that doesn't happen too often. So, Tony, let's go to hear that special weekend, special game of a person that we all know quite well that 20 years played for the same team. That doesn't happen too often either. Let's hear from Darrell Green.
Something I've only done just a handful of times before. I got to tell you, I'm stingy with this key. This key represents the spirit of Washington, and it's my honor today to introduce the Darrell Green with the key to Washington, D.C.
Get the key to the city just because you got some of these nice accolades and statistics on the field. You get the key to the city because you've done a lot for the community.
Darrell just came in, small guy, and I thought, that little bitty dude, what's he gonna do? And then all of a sudden he showed what his game was. The small body, big game, and then I also learned that personality-wise and life skill-wise, everything is enormous.
You got a guy who's played 20 years in the National Football League at the same high level that Darrell did from the day he walked in to the day he left. You know, you can't do nothing but say, congratulations, man, job well done. And if you're going to retire anybody's jersey, he's in the Hall of Fame, he's in whatever fame he should be in, you got to say it's Darrell Green. So I'm glad for Darrell, and there's no doubt that jersey is supposed to be retired, never worn again.
What play really stands out in your mind about Darrell?
The punt return against the Chicago Bears. That's the one play that I think was the pivotal play. Well, it's two plays. That one for sure gave us an opportunity to come here to play the Minnesota Vikings, and to play on the goal line where he knocked the ball down. So the way I look at it, I know Darrell got a lot of great plays. But for me, and being part of this team, it's two plays that stand out. The punt return in Chicago and the ball he knocked down at the goal line against Minnesota Vikings.
And what do you think Darrell will be remembered most for in his career as a player, off the field, and so forth?
Well, the thing about it, he got so many things to be remembered for, for what he does now, for his foundation, and the fact that people remember what Darrell was as a player and things like that. I mean, that's outstanding. It's hard to forget a Darrell Green. He's going to always be a part of the Redskin commander, for the rest of his life.
The person that Darrell Green is, he really is a living, breathing example for every professional athlete. He's a devoted family man. Played 20 years in this franchise, Hall of Famer, had a great career, and continually giving back to the community, giving back to Washington, D.C., giving to his family. He's a great example. He's a great mentor for me as a young player coming here, and a great teammate.
If you talk about what stands out most about him career-wise, what he has meant to, like you said, this community, and if there's one play or a couple plays that really stand out in your mind, what would that be?
Well, the one play happened before I ever got here, and that was when one of my idols, Tony Dorsett, broke out on that long run, and I watched Darrell Green go walk him down. And I came here as a young man knowing who Darrell Green was, but not knowing who Darrell Green was. He's been a tremendous, tremendous mentor to me. In my life, and a great example for me to follow.
If you think about your playing time with Darrell and just what he was as a football player and a person, what really stands out in your mind about Darrell Green?
I think the thing about Darrell, he's a consistent. He had conviction in who he wanted to be, who he was on the field, who he was off the field. He didn't care what you thought about it. He was going to be that person. And you look at him, and still today, he's the exact same guy. When you talk about people being as good a person on the field as they are off the field, I think you look at Jaden Daniels, he's kind of like that guy. But the thing about me, I got here as a young man, and, just like when I was a kid at home, I knew to follow the brothers and sisters that my mom and dad smiled and they were bragging about all the time. When I got here, I watched Darrell, I watched Art, and I say, okay, let me try to follow those guys up a little bit. I was a little renegade-ish at the time. And Darrell would talk to me all the time, and we've had talks since. And he said, yeah, boy, I knew you were hard-headed, but I knew something was in there. And I just say he was a great teammate, a great person, and as he talked about all the time, he wanted to be better off the field than he was on the field because football didn't define him, and I think he's still that way today.
Well, like I said, not only Darrell Green that was honored this past week for his jersey being retired, but we have 3 of his teammates right here on set. And Tony, you, Charles, and Gary played with Darrell, and I'm sure that you all have some great stories that you want to share about Darrell Green.
But I can tell you one that you probably never heard. But you remember when Darrell caught the running back, the great running back from Dallas Cowboys, and they were talking about how fast he was and how everything. Y'all got to go back and look at that film, and number 78 was running right next to Darrell.
You had to laugh at that.
I was running. I was close to him when we were running to the huddle. But look here, I got a lot of good stories about Darrell. I remember when he first came, and Pettibone said, "We're looking at this little guy," and he said he hasn't played in one, but he's really good, and he's smart with them by getting number one. They couldn't get a better guy, not just for the playing aspect, for the personal aspect. And I remember that when he first got there, he came to me for two things. Me and Novena helped them find their home, and we helped them find their church. And we've been friends ever since until Solomon broke his bike and didn't tell him and put it back in the garage. That's my story.
Hey, Charles, you
That's
came
great.
Charles, you came in with Darrell, so I know
I did.
Stories.
I did. We both have similar stories. Little small schools. He was at Texas A&I. I was at University of Nevada at Reno. He was a first rounder. I was the third rounder. Our second round pick was a running back that got cut because he was scared to run through the holes.
Right.
I remember meeting Darrell and having confidence that if this little guy could make it, I certainly could make it. I was about 40 pounds lighter than I ended up playing at. And I just remember Darrell driving a Toyota Supra.
Yes,
he
sir.
had a Supra, and he would peel out when he would switch gears and stuff. And then after that, he bought a Volkswagen. So, I mean, the guy was modest and yet diligent in everything he did. And, of course, being one of the fastest men in the NFL for a long period of time. And then let me just give you one other thing. He had a chance to switch or leave this team and go make a bunch of money in Denver. Denver had offered him, I guess it was, I don't know, it was Reggie White and the whole collective bargaining agreement. And all of a sudden now you could switch teams and all this and that. And Darrell decided, he talked to his pastor, he talked to a bunch of us, and he said, "I'm going to stay." And we all thought he was kind of crazy that he didn't take the money, but he stayed, and look what happened. 20 years in one place, and he got his jersey retired.
Don't feel bad for him. Don't feel bad for him. I took it.
Tony, but Jerry, you went up against him every day in practice, and also was there with him in Super Bowl. So you had a hard task every game. Every game, every practice.
Yeah, I mean, Darrell. I mean, I think myself, Art, and Ricky can give Darrell a lot of credit to helping us better our game, because he's definitely one of the best defensive backs to ever play the game, hands down. Players, you don't play for 20 years in this league. I mean, that's not at that position. And the funny thing about Darrell is if he'd have moved to safety, he could have played another 10 years. He'd have been able to play 30 years in the NFL. I mean, 20 years unheard of. Quite honestly, Charles had a great career. Art Monk had a great career. They played a lot longer than most people at their positions that have an opportunity to play. But Darrell just made me a better football player, maybe a better receiver. I mean, I could definitely my 4 Pro Bowls that I had a chance to play in, a lot of that probably goes to me going against Darrell in practice every day. He was that type of defensive back.
Go ahead, take your flowers, Gary. You was schooling Darrell sometimes.
Yeah. Never deep. My rookie year, I learned my lesson, because I came in, I didn't really know who Darrell was. I didn't really care who Darrell was. I had I'm that guy. I always had a little chip on his shoulder. So I remember telling Jay Schroeder, because I wasn't starting yet. I mean, I'm going to 9. Just throw it as far as you got it. I got this. So when we started out, it looked like I was a receiver and Darrell was a defensive back. But by the time that play was over, it looked like Darrell was a receiver and I was a defensive back chasing him, trying to just do what I could to make sure he didn't intercept the football. That's when I learned my lesson. I'm not trying to go deep against Darrell Green. I'm not going to win that battle. I'm going to cross his face. then I have an opportunity. As long as my quarterback is putting it right on me, because he's that great of a defensive back.
It's so funny, Charles and Tony and Gary, that somebody told me this past weekend is that Darrell used to tell the people in practice, hey, I want you all to run this play because I want to be game ready. So he was trying to actually tell, looking at the other players, because he was always going to guard the number one person. What really stands out even more so about Darrell? We got about a minute to go. Anybody can jump in.
They can go with
I think Dexter Manley and I and Tony as well, making the quarterback have to get rid of the ball really quick. So we helped make Darrell too now. On it. I'm just being honest with you. I'm just going to tell you the truth, okay? I gave Gary a chance to tell the truth.
Let's go,
hey, Charles.
That quarterback had to get rid of that ball quick.
You got to call it like you see it. He wouldn't be in the Hall of Fame if it wasn't for us. I'll go out on that one. I go around lying all the time saying, well, I was with Mike Haynes. He went to the Hall of Fame. I was there. I'm taking responsibility for all that, but no kidding. He's one of the best.
He was one of the best.
We're going to take a break right now. When we come back, we'll go around the league a little bit, see if there's any best out there anymore. But we know one thing. There ain't no more Darrell Greens out there. We'll be back in a moment.
Tony McGee's Pro Football Plus Speakers Bureau offers you various opportunities to connect with former and current players along with Tony and the crew. For more information, go to redmagplus.com Speakers Bureau.
Now, you keep talking about the 40th year. And you know what? Yeah, we're proud of it, and we're going to continue to talk about it. Now, for all of you that got questions, I was only 10 years old when we started this show. Okay, with that being said, you take a look. Damn, I couldn't even tell that.
You even got to laugh at that one.
You go around the league, you look at the different things. You got me all messed up on this because I told the biggest one on television. Forgive me, everyone. But as you take around and you take a look at us and you take a look at these teams, tell me your assessment.
Hey, Tony, but before I tell you my assessment, we got the Pro Football Plus Challenge. And you talking about y'all so competitive with our picks. This group right here is competitive too, because the glory days, maybe you got to get some help with your picks, because right now the glory days are 4-0, Tony, leading the pack. And then right behind them is Crystal City Restaurant. If you want some wings, if you want some food, if you want some good times, go on over there, because right now they're at 3-1. So it's a fight between those two. But Kellogg's, they got off to a start like Alex did. In the picks, because he's stumbling at last. And right now.
Wait. Will you repeat that? You're saying Alex?
I'm just saying it's early, Tony. We're not even halfway through the season. So, Kellogg's can jump in and take the lead right now.
Well, Kellogg's, I got a special feeling for them because they feed the world and they my hometown.
I like that. And they got some of the best cereal that I like to and dive into for my breakfast. So Kellogg's, I'm rooting for you, but I'm really rooting for everybody. But Kellogg's, I do have a little edge for you right now. And then Tony, as far as Crystal City Pub, they're right in the mix too at 2-2. So Solomon always said, if you want the best wings and chili and all of that stuff, and Gary knows about that because we used to go over there with Tony to get food all the time after the show. So they're at 2-2. So it's heated up. And we've got a new one in the mix too, Tony, as far as Still Familiar. They're just getting in the game. And it's not too late for anybody to get into the game because we're not even halfway through the season. So
right, and you know what, Donna, we got some people talking game out there too. We're going to bring a couple of more on. We'll see what's happening with it.
Yeah, but right now, you know what? The picks are heated up with that sports bar challenge. But Tony, we got to go around the leagues because a lot of things is happening. The Philadelphia Eagles, they seem like they woke back up. They're at 4-2, and they beat up on the lowly Giants. And guess what? Saquon Barkley, the Giants said, we don't want you no more. Philadelphia said, we'll take you. 176 yards. Talk to me, Solomon, a little bit about those Philadelphia Eagles. Have they turned the corner right now?
Or either they turn the corner or they settle their argument inside the locker room. So either that is taking place. They're still a scary team, and I just feel like even as good as we're playing right now, I still feel like it's going to be between us and them at the end. I feel like the Cowgirls are going to do what they do, and I feel like the Giants are just they're just the Giants, like I say every week. But I feel like we still cannot sleep on the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah, and Tony, Dallas was off this week, but I want to go to Charles. Charles, the Detroit Lions was playing against the Minnesota Vikings, one of the only other teams that were undefeated. But guess what? That's not happening anymore. Detroit came back with a field goal and handed the Vikings their first loss. And they lost one of their top defensive guys, Hutchinson, the week before. Seems like they haven't even missed a beat. Who do you like right there? Even though it was just a slight win, Detroit edges the Vikings. But talk about both of those two teams.
Well, first of all, Detroit is just they remind me of the Redskins, not the Commanders. They remind me of the Redskins under Joe Gibbs. And when he took over the helm, the first year they went 0-8 and then ended up 8-8. And then after that, they were in the Super Bowl against Miami, winning that. I'm talking about the former Redskins. And this Detroit Lions team, I mean, they swapped quarterbacks. Matthew Stafford went to the Rams, and they got the Rams quarterback. They discarded this kid, and he has proven everybody, all the scouts and everybody, that he is a legitimate quarterback, and I believe he will be back in the Super Bowl sometime soon. I'm just very impressed with Detroit. Everything they do, they feel like a blue-collar team. Now, Minnesota, I'm still not really believing them. Detroit has made me a believer. Minnesota still has to prove it. Week in and week out, going into the stretch. It's not how you start the game and not how you start your season. It's how you finish. And I think the team that will finish strong, at least in their division, is going to be Detroit.
Hey, Gary, the Kansas City Chiefs, I'm giving it to you because Tony don't believe in the Chiefs a lot, but I told him they will be here no matter what. And Patrick Mahomes, he's not even having a great year. He only had 154 yards. He had 2 interceptions, but guess what? They still won. Talk to me about the Chiefs, because no matter if Mahomes is playing well, Tony, they'll still be there.
Yeah, even when Mahomes plays bad, he plays well. I mean, that's the key to Kansas City's offense. When he has an off game, it's somebody else's good game. When he throws interception, it's a rarity, but defense picks that up as well as they should. I mean, the best thing about Kansas City is they have a good team. Not just a good offense, not just a good defense, not just a good special teams. You have a good team, and teams is what win football games, and teams is what win Super Bowls. We're very fortunate that we had all facets each Super Bowl that we was able to win that I played in. All facets of the game was great. Our defense was always spectacular. The 2 Super Bowls I played in, we had spectacular defenses. Special teams were always on point. Even when the offense was playing bad, the defense was playing bad, special teams tend to always come out and shine the years that I was in Washington. So what Kansas City has, it has a great leader and their quarterback, but they also have a great coach. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Gibbs, to be quite honest. If I have to compare him to any type of coach, he reminds me of Joe, how he knows how to manage his players, manage his team. And Kansas City, I just would never bet against him. I just don't. I don't bet against Kansas City. Like I said last year, you don't bet against Kansas City.
Hey, Tony, I know we got to go to break, but the Pittsburgh Steelers ended up switching quarterbacks for Russell Wilson. Nothing was wrong with Justin Fields, but just a quickie before you go to break. Is this Pittsburgh Steelers team coming out of nowhere? They weren't even supposed to be on the map. They win 37-15 over the Jets.
You must digress and go back and look at last year when they did not have any quarterback and they were in the running at the end of the playoff. Now they got a quarterback. They wanted to show the public power to getting him in there that they're going to play with the old man. And the old man's going to get it done with them. So what do? They cut the controversy out. They got a good defense, one of the better coaches in the league. They will be dangerous. And when we come back, talking about dangerous, if you look at our picks, we dangerous to our own lives. We trying to commit suicide. We'll be back in a minute. Well, we got to run now. And one thing about it, you can look at the picks and tell that ain't none of it blowing nobody away. But one thing we want to do each and every week, we want to blow you guys away, make it be a good show for you. So what do? We never say goodbye. We say in a minute.